Hey guys, and welcome back to another video. If you guys have been following along with the channel for a while now, you will know that I got pretty behind on all my videos towards the end of last year. And so recently I just finished up all of my onboard videos from the year. But I wanted to sit down with you guys and just talk about the 2020 season as a whole, talk about some of the high points and low points and everything in between. So I hope you guys are making it through the off season all right. Hopefully my videos have been keeping you guys sane with the racing bug. I know I've still been busy with everything going on, finishing up from last season and also getting things prepared for this next season. So I hope you guys are enjoying that, and I'm ready to get going again. So about a week from now we will be planning to be in Oklahoma at Red Dirt Raceway for the Now 600 opener, and I'll talk a little bit about Now 600 last year, and you'll just get a feel for what was going on this time a year ago in my racing career, and hopefully you guys enjoy this video. So let's go ahead and get started. So about a year ago we were still in the process of getting our G-Force chassis. We still had the Pace chassis, of course, in the garage, and that was all still put together. We really wanted to take the G-Force and right out of the gate have it on the track and getting up to speed with it, but that didn't quite work out for us. We didn't get the G-Force chassis until a few weeks, maybe a month after racing season had actually started. So we had to run those first few weeks with the Pace chassis, which we had plenty of success with the Pace chassis. It didn't set us back too much. But we really would have liked to have that G-Force chassis ready. But it worked out for us anyway. So our season started off in Texas at Super Bowl Speedway for the Now 600 season opener. A track we had never been to before and haven't been to since, actually. And it was a really unique place. It had a really flat back straightaway and front straightaway, but it had these big progressive corners that had quite a bit of banking up there around the top. They were supposed to race at Super Bowl Speedway last weekend, I believe, and then, as you guys know, things have gone awry, it seems like, in Texas. So obviously that got canceled. We weren't actually going to make the trip this year anyway, just because I wasn't a huge fan of the track and a lot of the way things are set up at that place I didn't care for a lot. So we weren't going to be back this year. But back to last year, we had a pretty rough first night. Obviously I knew it was going to be a lot of learning involved with it, as it was a new track for us. We hadn't been to a lot of different places at that point. But it was, it was tough, but what really made things worse that very first night is that I jumped a cushion. They didn't have a wall or anything up there at the top of the banking, so you get to the top of the banking and then it just falls away. One of those types of tracks. So I jumped the cushion, fell off the banking, and got into the fence pretty good. So that tore up the whole rear end, and it was just kind of a rough first night of the 2020 season. So we get it all put back together for the next day and had a pretty decent rebound. I think I ended up 6th in non-wing and probably top 10 in A class, somewhere around there. But it's not what I really want out of a weekend, but at least we had that rebound and we had something to show for it. Almost a top 5, a couple top 10s. So it was I'm not going to say it was a really good way to start the season off, but there was at least an upside to it. Skip ahead to the next week. and we're also with Now 600 at Red Dirt Raceway in Meeker, Oklahoma. First time at this track as well, but we really enjoy this place. We've been there three or four times now, and it'll have a bottom groove right around the tires, and one time we were there, it built a top groove that was just way around there, and probably the fastest I've ever been in a micro sprint. So Red Dirt Raceway, I believe it was March 7th of last year, and we took the Pace chassis to Victory Lane in the non-wing feature on a rubber down track. I knew I could win with Now 600. I mean, racing weekly at Sweet Springs it's a really competitive track. It's really tough to win there. I almost didn't feel like Now 600 had the competition that made it so difficult to win. It's obviously a competitive series. There's a lot of good drivers, but it just doesn't have the level of winning that Sweet Springs does. So racing at Sweet Springs for so long kind of prepared me to be able to capitalize on races like that, I feel like. But I'm not gonna sit here and tell you that it was easy by any means, because there's still some good competition at those Now 600 races. And to say I just immediately thought I would start winning with Now 600, and obviously I haven't kept winning, it's still my only Now 600 win, but it was kind of a surprise for the beginning of the season, I'll say that. But it kind of kicked our year off right, and it was really good to have that giant rebound from the week before at Super Bowl Speedway. So that was really cool. Still probably maybe the biggest win of my career, running with the Now 600 National Series. So really a highlight of the year for sure. After that, I believe they went to Port City. We didn't go to that. I'm not a huge fan of Port City, so we sat that one out. After that, we got the long hiatus for COVID. It was about 2 months, I think. But in these 2 months, we actually did get our G-Force chassis. We got it all wrapped and put together. We missed a race at Creek County towards the beginning of May, which was kind of a disappointment, but we raced the next week at Casey Raceway. It was our first weekend back. It was where we debuted the G-Force chassis, and it was a tough weekend. A lot of driver comfort, fine-tuning things that we hadn't worked out of the car yet, so we didn't really do so great, but it was still a highlight of the season just to be able to debut the G-Force chassis. And that was towards the beginning of May. I want to say it was like the first or second weekend of May. Fast forward all the way to June 6th, and we're racing weekly at Sweet Springs. And at this point, we've raced the G-Force chassis probably several times at this point, but we haven't gotten a win. And we're racing at Sweet Springs just on a weekly show. I've never won an A-class race at this point in my career, but we had a super fast car all night. I don't remember the heat races, but I definitely remember in the features we were really good. We go out for A-class feature. I think I started on the pole. I either started on the pole or I started outside pole, for sure on the front row. But just kind of drive away, and I was running the top in 1 and 2 and the bottom of 3 and 4, and I mean, I had what seemed like the fastest car up front, and I was feeling really comfortable inside the car. I lead the first 20 to 25 laps, somewhere in that range, and we're getting ready to go back green on a restart, and the battery dies. So it was just a big heartbreak. I don't really think anyone would have had anything for us. It really could have been the first win that we get in the G-Force chassis, but it would have to wait. But to show that speed in the G-Force chassis, I think is really a testament to what Nathan does and what he puts into these cars. For me to have learned so quick in the month that I had leading up to that race, it showed that we had the chassis to compete, and we were already getting the speed out of it. So good things to look forward to for the second half of the season, really. The following week we go to Oklahoma for the Now 600 Sooner 600 week, and I didn't really have a lot of expectation going into it. I think I had been to 2 of the tracks before. I'd been to Caney, and we were supposed to go to Arcoma the last night, but that got canceled and switched out for a second night at Creek County. So I think the only track I had been to was actually Caney in Kansas, and so I didn't have a whole lot of expectation going into it. I figured a lot of these guys have been to these tracks multiple times. They probably have quite a bit of an upper hand over me, so didn't have a lot of expectation. But at the end of the week, we found ourselves second in the non-wing points, which was just an absolutely phenomenal run for us. There was, I would say, of all of the Now 600 events we went to all year, that one had the best competition. Not just the one night, but the whole week overall. So it was a big step forward, a big confidence booster for us to be able to finish second to Frank Flood in the non-wing points. Things didn't really go our way in A-Class. We missed some of the shows, but just to be able to be there in non-wing was a huge accomplishment, and something that, again, further proves good things to look forward to for the rest of the season for us. Then for July 4th weekend, we make the trip to Indiana for the first time to race. We go to US 24 Speedway, which is last year became one of our favorite tracks to go to. I think we went 3 or 4 times, and we had good results every time we went. It's just a really racy track. There's always a top and a bottom to work with. It builds a good cushion, and it's got just some really good racers that race there on a weekly basis. And I have so much fun every time we go there. Like I've been telling people, the track really has good payouts and even better racing. So I can't wait to get back there again this year. But our first trip to US 24 was for the Dennis Sparks Memorial, which was a $2,000 to win stock non-wing event. We ran the other 2 classes, A-Class and Outlaw non-wing, with it, but the highlight, the main event, was the stock non-wing. So we have kind of a rough first night. I was still getting a feel for the track. It's a little bit different than most tracks I've been on, a lot shorter, a lot tighter. But the second night we come out and we do really well. We don't do so great in the heat races, but once it comes feature time and the track's widened out, it's got a cushion to lean on, we really went to the front. So the stock non-wing event, 2,000 to win. Rusty Dysinger was leading the race. He had started up front. I started mid-pack, 10th or 12th, somewhere around in there, and found my way to the front really quickly. So I traded a couple slide jobs to get to second. And then I run most of the race in second while trading slide jobs with Rusty for the lead. And this is the real hot summer months. I mean, this is beginning July, so we're struggling a little bit with overheating issues. But the car was just so fast, running the top, and I mean, this is one of his home tracks, so I know I've got something here if I'm able to run with him. So there's a 40-lap main event. I think we made it to lap 32 or 33 when the engine actually let go from the overheating, and it was just a heartbreaker for us. I mean, even if I could have came home second, it would have been $1,000 payday for us, which would help us out so much throughout our season if we can get payouts like that. So It was 2,000 to win, but I mean, it was just heartbreaking to be so close. 8 laps left in the feature and blow up like that. But I mean, that's one of those things you have to look at and say, we'll get another engine in it and we'll be back. And we did come back, and we, as I'll go through later on in this list, we did come back to US 24 later in the season. But heartbreaking for sure on that one. Later on in July, we make our way to Circus City Speedway for the first time in Indiana. And this is a track that I've watched a lot of racing at. I've heard about for a few years at this point. They put on really good racing. It's a real flat track, not a whole ton of straightaway, but it's got enough there to make it racy. Easily the flattest track I've been on, I'd say. And we go to the Non-Wing World Championships, and I think it was mid-July, maybe late July. Which the Non-Wing World Championships is an outlaw non-wing show. All of the best outlaw non-wing microsprint racers are there. There was probably 120, 130 cars each night. And if I were guessing, I would say not very many of them were stock. Had a stock engine in there. So, which, if you don't know already, everything we did in 2020 was with a stock engine. So obviously we show up, we're at a disadvantage before we even unload. Just not having the power that some of these other guys have, not having the torque to get up off the corners, not having the straightaway speed that they do. So we don't have huge expectations for this race. Honestly, if I could make it to an LCQ, I would have considered that a win. We struggled a little bit the first 2 nights, but I feel like we learn each night. And by Saturday night, I feel like I've learned quite a bit. So we go out for the heat race. I think I start 8th or 9th. I drive all the way up to 2nd to put myself in a really good starting spot for the last chance qualifier. And I think they took top 7 from the last chance qualifiers, so they took a good number of them. So I feel pretty confident going into this last chance qualifier. If I can just stay where I need to be, even where I start at in the last chance qualifier, I can make it to the A main. Go out for the last chance qualifier. I run 3rd or 4th most of the race. About halfway through the race, I start to venture up a groove and find kind of a middle to a high line to run when everyone else was still around the bottom. And I drive my way all the way to the front of the last chance qualifier. So taking a stock engine there, winning the last chance qualifier, and putting it in the show was just huge for us. It was... My dad has said multiple times at this point that he considers that to be bigger than some nights that we've gone out and won. So that gives you a little bit of context as to like how much of an uphill battle it was for us and how much of an accomplishment it was just to even make the last chance qualifier. To me would have been a win, but to make the A main was really something special that I mean, if we can go back again and do the same thing this year, would be awesome. I do think Circus City was one of the best tracks to be able to compete with a stock engine because it is so flat. You're checking up a lot in the corners. There's not a whole ton of straightaway. The track slicks off a lot and gets pretty dusty in the long run. So things just went our way, and we were there to capitalize on it, and it worked out for us. It was a really big weekend for us. Continuing with our trend of trips to Indiana, we go back to US 24 once again on September 5th to run stock non-wing for 500 to win. We also run our other 2 classes, A class and outlaw non-wing, just like we did every time we went to US 24. And again, the track is phenomenal. You got a cushion to lean on, got a bottom groove to work with. The track did take a little bit of rubber on the bottom, but it wasn't enough that it really tore up tires, so it kind of just made the features a little bit more interesting, which I don't consider to be a bad thing. I mean, a track can take some rubber and and still produce good racing and not tear up tires too bad. So really phenomenal night of racing here. Throwing some slide jobs with Seth Pugh, who's a weekly racer there, for the non-wing win. I get out to the lead, and I had a feeling that the rubber would come back through on the bottom like it had in the A-Class race. They'd gone out and done a little bit of track prep to try and take care of it, but I had a feeling it would come back. I get out to the lead. We have some yellows, and then another local guy that's really good there, Jack Hoyer, comes back to me on the bottom, and he made it close. He really made me work for it. We ended up getting him at the line by 0.005 of a second. So probably the closest race I've been a part of, but he did a really great job. He kept me on my toes, and if we had one more lap, he probably would have got me. But the $500 win for us really helped us out, and it's just felt really good to get back there and get that little bit of redemption from when we were there for the Sparks Memorial a couple months before that. So really awesome weekend for us. The next weekend we go to the Terry Sprague Memorial at Southern Illinois Raceway. Southern Illinois is a track we'd also never been to before, but we'll definitely be back to this year. It was really a pretty intimidating race for me, intimidating track I should say, with how high banked it is. It's just like nothing I've ever been on before and haven't been on since, really. But it's a really neat place. We'll definitely be back. Again, the Terry Sprague Memorial is an outlaw non-wing race, so we show up. Not really sure how we're going to do, but we've got the experience with racing with the Outlaws from Circus City that we feel like we can build on and do well here as well. So showing up to a real high bank track, I think you're going to be at more of a disadvantage than you were at Circus City with the stock engine, and that's really what we found out this weekend. We end up making the last chance qualifier on Saturday night after a pretty tough Thursday, Friday. Maybe it was just Friday, maybe it was just a 2-day show, but Saturday night we end up making it all the way to the last chance qualifier after a lengthy delay for the weather. But being able to make it to the last chance qualifier, I felt like was a good accomplishment for us. I mean, it always is going to suck when there's a feature race on the track and you're not a part of it, but taking the stock car, the stock engine, and making it to the last chance qualifier at one of the biggest outlaw non-wing shows is still an accomplishment nonetheless. And for the final time, we go to US 24 Speedway in Indiana. I think we were there for a $1,000 to win outlaw non-wing race, which I feel like we would have a better chance than if we had gone to than when we went to Southern Illinois, but still at a disadvantage anytime you unload with a stock engine for that. But we also race our other two classes, like I've told you about US 24 before. We don't have good luck in the other two classes, but we did manage to get one of our first, if not our first, A-class win. So I've been racing these cars for several years now. I think I've been racing them for 8, 9, maybe 10 years at this point. I think 9 years. I think probably 9 years. But I have never, besides my one lone restrictor win, won with the A-class, or won with the wing on, I should say. Never won with the wing on until this year. So it's always been a challenge for me. I've always been more of a natural non-wing driver, but to be able to go to Indiana and win with the wing on was pretty good for us. They have some really good competition at US 24, so being able to win there, you've done something. So really proud of that one. The next week we go to the Trump 45 at Wayne County Speedway. We had been here once before on the weekend of the Sprague Memorial at Southern Illinois. We just stopped by for a Sunday night of racing, which was like their weekly show. And we actually almost won that night after the Sprague Memorial, but this weekend we actually had a tough time getting a hold of the track. We were there for the Trump 45, like I said, which is I think it was the Hart Outlaw non-wing series biggest race of the 2020 season. So they had, I'd say it was close to 40 or 50 Outlaw non-wing cars there, which is a pretty sizable field. We actually were not able to make the feature with them, as I struggled getting a hold of the track for most of the weekend. But when I say I learned a lot at a racetrack for a weekend, I really mean it. I don't just go around saying that I felt like I learned a lot. I don't say that often, because if I'm saying that, I mean it. And I really felt like I learned a lot this weekend. Learned a lot about my tire grooving and siping. And if you watch that video, I go a little bit more in depth on that. But learning how to get a hold of these tracks. Wayne County is real sandy dirt, real powdery kind of, and it's really tough for me to get a hold of these tracks, but I felt like I learned a lot about grooving and siping my tires to get a hold of it. And it really showed at the end of the night when we were able to pick up the win in A-Class. Again, this was the weekend right after our A-Class win at US 24, and I think it really shows how far we came with our wing program last year, that we were able to rattle off these wins at the end of the season with the wing on. But picking up a win at a different track is always an accomplishment, no matter where you go, no matter what the field is, what level of competition is there. It just really shows that you've come a long way when you can win at these different tracks that you go to. So it may not have been the actual Trump 45 event with the Outlaw non-wing, but we still ended up having a good weekend learning, for the most part, I would say. The second weekend of October, we go back home to Sweet Springs Motorsports Complex. I haven't gone into a whole lot of detail, and I'll spare a little bit here, but Sweet Springs is just one of the most competitive tracks in the country, and I can't say enough about the weekly show that they put on and how good some of these guys at Sweet Springs are that compete there on a weekly basis. It's really prepared me so much for being able to travel around to these different events and race with the stiff competition that we see when we go to these national level type events. So if you ever get a chance to check out Sweet Springs, you definitely won't regret it. They put on really good racing, and the level of competition is really up there when you go. So, but it was really nice to go back the second weekend of October for the Show Me Showdown. The Show Me Showdown is an event that I've raced in all of my micro sprint career. It's always been kind of a roller coaster event for us, as you know, one year I got quick time in A-Class, and then I think the next year I junked it in the fence by hitting an I-beam. I mean, it was just such a roller coaster, up and down type of event for us over the years, but it's still one that I look forward to every single year, as we get to run all three of our classes, and it's 3 full nights of racing. Actually, they split the classes into 2 nights, Thursday and Friday, and then they run all of them on Saturday. So you kind of can take it easy a little bit on those first 2 nights, only running 1 class. Or if you're like us, you only get to run 1 class one of those nights, but it's just nice to be back home and be able to take it easy at least one of those nights and just have a night of fun. So Thursday night, we actually go quick time in A-Class, which was a big accomplishment. I think I even went out pretty late for A-Class. So to be able to put it all the way up there after going out late was pretty big. And then we get going for I think it was the B main or the LCQ. And there was a little bit of a rut in 1 and 2. And 1 lap I caught it just right and got myself a really good shot down the straightaway. And I tried it the next lap and it put me over on my lid. So that kind of continues with the Show Me Showdown being an up and down event for us. But we come out the next night for Friday night and we again go quick time in stock non-wing. So being able to sweep the quick times for the stock class at the Show Me Showdown was huge, huge. I mean, the chances of being able to do that are crazy. Like, and there was some really good competition. I'd say there was I think there was 50 cars in each class. So just really impressive and even surprising ourselves right there. Come down to Saturday night, and because of my flip on Thursday night, I don't have a good starting spot. I have to come through a couple B mains in A class and outlaw non-wing. Makes it tough on us, but we do end up making the show in all three of our classes. And stock non-wing, the one that we had been flawless in up to this point, comes right down to the last lap between me and Frank Flood. If you don't know who Frank Flood is, he's obviously one of the greatest micro sprint drivers probably of all time. I mean, he just wins everywhere he goes, and he's been doing this for so long that he's got a handle on every track, it seems like. And if he has a bad night, it's not because he missed a setup or something like that. It's because something went wrong for him. It's just crazy how consistently good he is, and to be able to run with him right down to the wire at Sweet Springs, even that's my home track. I mean, I've turned countless laps there, and he comes to town and he beats me. That's just a testament to how good he actually is. But even at my home track, to be able to run right there with him and come down to the final lap, the final corner, and almost get him, it just shows how far we came last year. I didn't really think that... I always figured that if you did this more, you would get better at it. I had no idea. Being able to race 2 or 3 nights a week, there's no substitute for it. You just get so much more seat time, so much more experience going to all of these different tracks that there's just no substitute for it. And I didn't realize that when I was racing weekly at Sweet Springs, but it takes you to a whole nother level. It really does. So that just shows how far we really came in 2020, I believe. For one of our final weekends of the year, I should say weeks because it was a midweek race, we go to Millbridge Speedway in North Carolina. Millbridge has become really popular among outlaw kart guys and micro guys at this point because they've been getting more and more into the micro sprints there in North Carolina. So we go out there for the Keith Kunz Motorsports Give Back Classic, which is where the winner of the race gets to either choose, I think it was $10,000 or a ride with Keith Kunz at the Chili Bowl. We go out there, it's an outlaw non-wing race, so obviously we have our standard expectations at this point, as we've run with the Outlaws a lot this year. And we were just so outclassed out there. I mean, of any race we went to in 2020, I really felt like out in North Carolina, there was the best competition of any race we had gone to. It was just crazy how many good high-level cars and high-level drivers were out there. If you weren't following along with the event, there were a few NASCAR guys in it. There was Kyle Larson, Christopher Bell, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. was in it, Justin Grant was in it. I mean, just a lot of big names there. So we were just kind of outclassed. And whether that be from me not really understanding the track, it gets way up on the fence right there at that place. So whether it was me not having the experience to be able to do that, or me being down on power having the stock engine, I don't really know for sure. But we did have a flip the very last night in like the D main, so it's not really like we were going anywhere, but probably the most violent flip of my career. You can find it on the channel if you look back. But I think we'll definitely be back to Millbridge at some point this year. I'm planning on it at least. Hopefully we can work something out and get back out there. The very final race of our season took place on November 13th at the local Casey Raceway. Casey Raceway was a track that just came. They've been racing karts for several years, I think, at this point, but they just opened up this last season for the micro sprints, and I think there's still a lot they have to learn about getting the track right, but I think he's really made some gains on it as far as his track prep, even this last year. And then I think he's making some changes in this off season that'll really help out. So you'll probably see us back there more this next year as well. But our final race at Casey Raceway, it must have been like 40 degrees out. It was so cold. To be quite honest, I don't like racing in the cold weather, but racing's racing, so we went anyway. And we end up with a non-wing win the very last night out. Took a lot of luck to get there with our draw, but I was able to hold off Chris Koch, who is a very talented, very experienced local non-wing guy who I've raced with for several years, and he's always been really tough to beat, really competitive, up there at the front almost every night. So being able to beat him and hold him off at the checkers was, I want to say it was an accomplishment, but it was probably a lot of luck too. At one point he almost gets by me, and the yellow comes out, so it just worked out right for us. But being able to cap the season off with a win meant a lot to me. It seems like the last race of the season always kind of weighs on me throughout the off season, whether we struggled the last night out or whether we have a good night. So definitely makes me feel better throughout the off season to have a good final night out. So overall, 2020 was a phenomenal year for us. I hope you guys all had a good time following along on the channel with us. I believe we went to 12 different tracks this season, 10 of them for the first time, and we ended up with 8 wins on the year at 5 different tracks. So like I said before, the traveling and the experience that you get from it is just invaluable, and it's really helped us out, especially towards the end of the year as we start to go back to these places. We have some notes to build on. It really helps us out, and I think it's going to help us out a lot this next year as well. So I hope you guys will stay tuned for 2021 as well. I have to give a huge thanks to Nathan Benson Motorsports and G-Force Chassis, Sure-Built Suspensions, Missouri State Construction, DDI Fabrication, AFD Graphics, GoPro, Senor Dwayne's Tailgate Salsa LLC, and anyone else I'm forgetting. Just thank you for everything that you guys have done to help us out. Thanks to all of you guys for following along with the channel. Hit 100 subscribers this year, and now I'm actually about to break 150, which is crazy to me. It doesn't seem like very long ago that I was at 100, so the channel is really starting to pick up steam, it feels like, and I can't thank all of you guys enough for following along and sharing our videos and letting me know what you guys think. But I hope you guys enjoyed this 2020 season review. And pretty soon coming out, I will have a 2020 season. I'm sorry, I should have a 2021 season preview coming, where I talk about our plans for 2021. I'll probably go over some of the highlights of the schedule that I have coming out with you guys. So be on the lookout for that as well. I'm looking forward to that. I have some really good ideas for some videos coming up shortly. And like I said, about a week from now, we should be in Meeker, Oklahoma at Red Dirt Raceway to be with Now 600. So kicking things off really quickly here. I've got a lot of work to do on the channel to get my videos out that I have planned and pretty soon you'll see more in-car footage coming out as well. So be on the lookout for all of that. Thank you guys for checking out this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you for the next one.